The People's Republic of China has been rightfully accused of aiding Russia's war in Ukraine by selling Russia what is called dual-use products, which are products that have a viable civilian and military application. China has agreed to not sell lethal aid to Russia, and it appears to be complying, but it is selling products that can be used to expand factory production of weapons as well as dual-use technology. Additional revelations were made apparent that the Western dual-use items are being found in exploded weapons used in Ukraine by the Russians. Dual-use technology can include ubiquitous items such as trucks, but can also include parts that can be used in weapons such as semiconductors. NATO has presented evidence of Chinese semiconductors in Russian weapons used in Ukraine and has argued for sanctions against Chinese firms that facilitate the trade to Russia of dual-use items. Kirilo Budanov, the chief of defense intelligence at the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, revealed in an interview that newly manufactured Russian weapons against Ukraine also contain dual-use Western chips. Ukrainian investigators found 3,800 Western components in recovered weapon fragments, of which 21% came from Analog Devices, Inc. of Massachusetts and 14% from Texas Instruments, headquartered in Texas. Import data shows that Russia purchased $326 million of Analog Devices, even though Analog Devices follows strict export controls, and there are no records by U.S. or Russian customs of Analog Devices shipping any products directly to Russia. Instead, they sold the Analog Company products to authorized distributors in China and Hong Kong, who then sold them to electronic suppliers worldwide. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, these electronic suppliers often compromise controls by selling these products to intermediaries with the illicit intent of using them in Russian weapons. The difficulty in exerting full control is due to the integrated nature of the global supply chain. These chips are used in Russian weapons navigation systems, which can receive encrypted signals from Russia's GLONASS global positioning satellites, or surprisingly from the US-made GPS satellite system. These signals guide weapons, such as the Russian advanced Iskander missile, to targets in Ukraine. The solution seems to be to halt the entry of US semiconductors, along with those from Asia and Europe, into the global market unless export controls incorporate chain of custody measures to track semiconductors from shipment to final manufacturing and to ensure that these final products are also included in the import sanctions regime against Russia. Is this solution even conceivable or achievable? The straightforward response is no, as its implementation necessitates the creation of several checkpoints, similar to the value-added tax scheme that levies taxes on components as they transition from raw materials to final products. Similarly, we would need to establish these checkpoints for semiconductor applications, and then include the final product in an embargo against Russia and its allies as part of the sanction regime. The sanction regimes would become more complex, harder to enforce, and ultimately lead to supply shortages of finished goods, as well as higher prices. Just as they did with oil, the creators of sanction regimes were aware that the global supply chain or energy market would not be disrupted, making the sanctions ineffective due to the high costs associated with making them ironclad. Instead, they intended to impede and annoy Russia, with the expectation that this would serve as sufficient motivation to halt their incursion.